You are quite eloquent in what you've written, actually, about how our sort of biases and our assumptions about the way that things must be has been quite restrictive. And I mean,
Yeah.
it has led to many of us being completely blind to what plants are doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I remember in the preface of Planta Sapiens, I speak of our navel gazing attitude, right? And navel gazing, I needed to use this term because there's biases of all sorts. So we have an anthropocentric approach, animal centric approach, neurocentric approach, locomotion centric approach. So if you've got to be on two legs, you've got to have neurons, you've got to belong to the animal kingdom, you've got to resemble or to do things as close as similar as possible to what I do. So this is again going back to the idea of all the biases we fall prey of by not being able to get rid of ourselves as this gold standard, right? I always think, look, imagine we could travel in time back, a few million years ago, like just before we were here on planet Earth, and those other square quotes higher animals, and say, hey, imagine you just come across this planet. We are Martian scientists and just land on planet Earth some time ago in the past, and then we just come across these plants such that we cannot use ourselves as that gold standard. And then how would you negotiate your interaction with them, scientifically speaking? So you wouldn't be able to say, hey, they cannot be smart because they have no neurons. You couldn't say that because there are no neurons to be compared against. So how would we see them if we were not wearing our animal-centric glasses, right?
It does remind me, because my PhD is in microbiology. I studied chemotaxis, so chemical sensing. And when you talk about the plants being able to sense gradients, look at what's increasing and decreasing over time, or being able to integrate different cues or communicate with each other, it makes me think these are all the things that bacteria are doing. So are we going to have to start thinking differently about all of life, to start sort of thinking about some form of cognition going on in all organisms?
Absolutely. So my focus is on plants. I can't help it. I like plants. But in a sense, this is an effort geared towards understanding what unites us all in the tree of life. So you mentioned moving from cognition to sentience. This is the place to go. I mean, where you have life, where there is life, there is already a mind. Now, if we weren't obsessed with our own human minds, we would appreciate the mentality of unicellulars because they don't need to resemble us, right? So life itself brings mentality, right? Now, in what sense? Well, that's a good example, chemotaxis, because even in unicellulars, we have this simplified or cartoon version of their doings, as in they are simply following one source of stimulation, like it's a one-to-one response. Like that's what delivers reactive behaviors, as we mentioned, like being reactive as opposed to proactive, right? But of course, that's just a way of analytically parceling the problem space, that you are focusing on the sugar and focusing on the tumbling or the swimming towards the target. We forget about the rest of information or energy impinging on your organism, right? So the name of the game is integration, because we are not simply responding on a one-to-one basis to sources of stimulation. So when we say that the plants behave phototropically, so directionally towards light source, we don't mean to say that the plant only cares about light. So the plant is behaving phototropically in the context of many other things that are going on around, right? So it's about providing a response that is globally adaptive. And that requires that the organism, plant, or whatever, it's integrating all this sensory information.
So you're almost talking about creating meaning in a way, taking all these little pieces of information and integrating them into a big picture of what that situation means for that organism at that time.
That's meaning making. That's it. That's biosemiotics, we call it. So meaning making on behalf of any organism requires that, if you're going to put yourself in their shoes, bacteria, fungi, plants, or whatever, or any other animal species, then it requires that you understand what sort of meaning making that form of life is engaging in, right? And that's so important